First of all, congratulations on hosting CR 2022. And I'm honored to have a presentation opportunity at this conference. I am Hee Lee, and I work in Gyeongbuk National University College of Nursing. The topic of this paper is predictors of expected number of offsprings in Korean college students. Let's start with the introduction. Korea became a country with low fertility rates, with a total fertility rate of 2.06 in 1983, 1.17 in 2001-2, and then the country with the lowest fertility rate among OECD member states at 0.84 in 2020. The expected number of offspring in the number of children an individual plan to have in the future. The expected number of offspring in college students can be the result of careful consideration of the will to give birth as prospective parents. Individuals enter adulthood during their college years and concretize their plans for marriage and children based on knowledge of pregnancy and parenting, which will help determine the number of children they will have. Life respect consciousness refers to the idea of valuing and respecting life and not recklessly harming living things with the awareness of the norms and principles of life that humans must adhere to. Higher life respect consciousness leads to higher empathic skills, helping individuals understand other people's emotions and feelings and share experiences. Moreover, they want children so they can continue their values of life through them and perceive children's values highly and display a responsible parenting attitude. The value of children is reported as a factor that affects the fertility intentions of college students. Even among single men and women, there is a clear tendency to attach more importance to emotional values rather than instrumental values of children. Therefore, the value of children in college students, which is changing from traditional to modern values, will be significant in determining the expected number of offspring in the future. Knowledge of pregnancy health care is reported that men and women of reproductive age who have a higher knowledge of pregnancy health care tend to show higher confidence in pregnancy and childbirth and greater results of delivery. Therefore, it is important for both men and women as married couples or partners to engage in pregnancy health care as those in charge of health behavior related to pregnancy. The college students today consider childbirth as an experience that is mysterious and precious yet difficult to bear. They have little knowledge about of pregnancy health care and low confidence about childbirth and parenting, thereby having low certainty about having children. This study is cross-sectional study to determine whether life respect conscious, the value of children, and knowledge of pregnancy health care in college students predict the expected number of offspring. The participants of this study are married male and female college students aged 18 and older who read the general descriptions about the study, volunteered to participate, and could use Google Forms to participate in the survey. Data was collected online from March 8 to 15, 2021. The instruments used in this paper are as follows. Expected number of offspring is measured with the single item of what is your expected number of offspring. The measures are comprised of 0, 1, 2 or higher, and do not know. The life respect consciousness was measured with the tools of Lee and colleague, consisting of 12 questions, and the range of Likert scale was 0 to 5. The value of children was measured by Choi and consisted of 7 questions, and the range of Likert scale was 0 to 5. The knowledge of pregnancy health care was measured by Wang and colleague, consists of 10 questions, and was based on the Likert scale. Looking at the internal consistency of all tools, Cronbach's alpha was 0.62 or higher. To analyze collected data, IBM SPSS statistics, this version 22 was used, conducting chi-squared tests and multinomial logistic analysis. The data collection of this paper was carried out after approving by the IRB of KNU. Now let's move on to the results. You can see the mean of life respect consciousness, value of children, knowledge of pregnancy health care, table 1. Especially 74.7% of the participants responded that they expected children, 64.9% of which said they expected to have at least 2 children, and 9.8% said they expected to have 1. The average expected number of offspring was 1.78. Predictions of expected number of offspring among participants were as follows. There was no statistical significance when the expected number of offspring was 0 in case the participants had a reason, whereas there was statistical significance when the expected number of offspring was 1. In case the participants had a reason, the percentage decreased by 85% when the expected number of offspring was 1 compared to when it was 2 or more. There was statistical significance in life respect consciousness when the expected number of offspring was 0, as well as when it was 1. As life respect consciousness increased by 1 level, the percentage decreased by 16% when the expected number of offspring was 0, compared to when it was 2 or more, and by 14% when the expected number of offspring was 1. There was statistical significance in value of children when the expected number of offspring was 0, which increased by 1.70 times compared to when the expected number of offspring was 2. There was also statistical significance when the expected number of offspring was 1, which increased by 1.22 times compared to when the expected number of offspring was 2 or more. As the value of children increased by 1 level, the percentage increased by 70% when the expected number of offspring was 0 compared to when it was 2 or more, and by 22% when the expected number of offspring was 0. To sum up, participants with higher life respect consciousness and more traditional value of children were more likely to expect to have 2 children rather than 1 or no children, and participants with religion were more likely to expect to have two or more children than one. This study has limitations in that it failed to comprehensively reflect other variables along with the socioeconomic variables that may affect the expected number of offspring, such as values about family, marriage, and gender roles. Therefore, further research that includes these variables is required. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your listening.